Hey y'all, what's going on? Hey, hey, hey. If you can hear me, just put yes in the chat. What's up? What's up? What's up? Hey, what's going on? How are y'all doing? If you can hear me, just let me know in the chat. I am very excited about this live stream. This is something that I actually wanted to talk about. Um so how are y'all doing? And this is just like a bonus live stream. I normally send out a text message. So we're kind of testing out, letting people know on Instagram that we're live. And let's see if it's gonna have the same impact. Okay. Let's see if it's gonna have the same impact as sending a text message, right? We did tell people to turn on their post notifications, and we did tell people to subscribe to the YouTube channel because you're not gonna always get a text message. So if you can hear me, just put yes in the chat. And for those who don't get to join us live, they're just gonna have to catch the replay. All right. So I'm also playing a video on YouTube not YouTube, but Instagram, to let people know that I am live. Right. So let's see what this organic marketing do without me sending out a text message. Because hey, we'll see. It might be a few of us or maybe a lot of us. Let's just see what the algorithm gods give us. All right. So I want to talk about why I purchased $1,000 book. Okay. We're gonna get into it. All right. I know it's a interesting title, but I'm gonna be going over why I spent $1,000 on a book, because it's less about the $1,000 I spent on the book and more about how I think. If everybody got it, just put a one in the chat. If y'all get what I'm saying, just put a one in the chat. It's not about the $1,000 book, right? It's not about the $1,000 book. It's about my mindset and how I think when I make decisions like buying $1,000 book. I think knowing how I make decisions is probably more important than why I bought $1,000 book. And if y'all can understand that, then you can really understand the conversation that we're going to be having today. And so let's get into it. If you don't know who I am, my name is Audria Richmond. I'm a marketing and launch strategist. I work directly with my clients to show them how to build uncloned brands and launch profitable marketing campaigns. We are the brand that you come to when you want to become or remain the obvious choice of your industry. All right. So, the first thing I want to talk to you about is, are you in the right success vehicle, right? This is a question that my husband and I started to have and discuss and really think through for this year in 2024. It was kind of like, have you ever like looked at your business and was like, am I in the right vehicle? Am I doing the right thing? Am I linked up with the right people? Like, have you ever thought about that? Like, am I in the right industry? Am I selling the right products and services? Just put a number 2 in the chat if you've ever had that question. Like, am I one in the right? First off, do I have the right career? 2, am I in the right market? 3, am I utilizing my talent to its fullest potential? That's something I want you all to think about, right? Like, that's something you want to begin to start thinking about, like, am I in the right vehicle, right? So this is something that my husband and I started to think through and started having this conversation around it, because I was telling my husband that, like, is this the thing that's going to make us more, a multi gazillionaire? Is this a business model that we can exit out of and get really good money from? Is this something that we can retire from? Is this something that we can pass down? Because, we only have a certain amount of time on this planet. And so when you're spending a lot of time doing things that don't move the needle, you can find yourself in the wrong business, in the wrong market, and now the next thing you know, your business is getting swiped up by AI, right? And so I think it's important to revisit this question. Probably, and let me just say this. Do y'all remember the days where you could like work a job and you could retire from that job, and be on the job for like 40 years, right? If you remember that, just put yes in the chat, right? That ain't the case no more. That is not the case no more. And I think that oftentimes when we start thinking about business, it's kind of like we forget that business move fast in 2024, right? At the time it is, live stream in 2024, it's extremely hard to be working at a company for 40 years, 20 years, hell, even 10 years, right? And so the days of having a job where you could work decades on end and your job, you didn't have to worry about your job being replaced or whatnot. But now there are so many things that can replace you. You have technology that can replace you. You have AI that can replace you. Hell, productivity can replace you. A certain SOP or a certain software or an app, it's so many things that can replace you, right? So it's not just about having skills and having a degree and being able to go and get a job, but it's also about if I'm going to work this job, what's the use of me for the next 5 years? What's the need for me in the next 10 years? And so if you're not actively developing yourself and making yourself better, just by default, you're not going to win, right? Because you have a mindset, you got this like set it and forget it mindset. Like, I learned this thing, I have a career, I went to school and got a degree. This is going to be my forever. And I hate to bring you the bad news, but that's not going to be your forever. And why can I say that? There's so many people I know who went to school for one thing, but they're not actively doing it because the thing they went to school for doesn't make any money. Does this make sense to everybody? Because if you understand this, then you would understand why I asked the question of, are we in the right vehicle? And this is something that you all want to begin to think about quite frequently, because if you're not thinking about this, before you know it, you're getting swiped up with everybody else, right? You're getting grouped in with everybody else. And so it's important to begin to think through, okay, am I in the right vehicle? Is this the right move for me? You need to be studying your industry, not from a competitor's sake, but from a damn viability perspective, right? Is this going to be an industry that's going to get swiped away? Or is this an industry that has growth year after year after year, right? Are you studying how business models are being, developed? Are you studying how business people are moving? Because if you're not studying those things, you're pretty much out the loop, right? So I think it's important to look at it from that perspective. So that was the first question that my husband and I asked ourselves this year, was like, are we in the right vehicle? And I would also say, again, this is something you want to revisit pretty much every 90 days, right? Mainly because nothing is promised. And so I want you to revisit this every 90 days. Am I in the right vehicle? Am I doing the right thing? Is this sorry about that. Is this the right business for me? Those are the things you want to begin to think about, right? Okay. So the next thing I want to say is, how many of you all seen somebody you really wanted to work with, but you judged them based on the size of their program? Okay. Just put me in the chat if that's you. Have you ever saw someone you wanted to work with, and because their program wasn't big, because they weren't producing big events, because they're not really as known in the industry you're in, you pretty much chalk that up as like, oh, this is not a good look for me. This is something I'm not going to be interested in, right? Let me tell you, I want to tell you a story. We're gonna get to the $1,000 book, okay? We're gonna get to the $1,000 book, but let me tell you a story. When I first started in the online marketing space, I was one of very few Black women who were in this space killing it. Okay? When I say killing it, I'm talking about dope brand, dope products and services, good reputation, had written books. As I was starting to develop success in this market, I'm more so talking about the online marketing space. It seemed like the more I elevated, the less Black people I saw in the room. Okay? It's the less Black people I saw in the room. So I would go to all of these like high-end conferences. I would be sitting in VIP and there would be no other Black people sitting in VIP. And I'm like, okay, am I supposed to be here? And then I would go to conferences and like sometimes I was the only Black person there. And I'm just like, either my people don't know this is happening or am I lost? Like, why am I here? Why am I the only Black person that's in this room, right? And one of the things that I think a lot of people don't understand is that when you are in those situations, you should be looking at it as an opportunity, right? You should be seeing it as an opportunity. You know what I saw it as? Like, oh, I probably should be like bringing some people along with me, and I did try to bring people along with me. Whenever I would invite my friends, you know what they'll say? The tickets were too high, or I don't want to necessarily go to that conference, or I don't necessarily want to go to that event. And or I had people or peers or friends that were just like, they weren't even on that. So it's like, how do you ask people to come along with you if they don't even want to buy a ticket? Just got it in the chat. Because what I'm saying to you, and really what this conversation is about, it's about you doing things that your peers, friends, and colleagues just aren't going to be doing. They're not going to be able to rub shoulders and bump arms with you on your way to the top. And you have to be okay with that. So when you see a room where you're most likely the only person, the only Black person, or you're the only one making these big moves, don't see it as a bad thing. See it as an opportunity. See it as you going first. Because had I saw it as an opportunity back then, I think I would have pursued a lot more rooms. I would have allowed myself to really blow up in different spaces. But because I had some shame around being the only Black person, and I would shrink and I would start going different places. So because of that, I just started shrinking. And so I stopped going into rooms where I was going to be the only Black person. I stopped showing up in spaces where I would be questioned and people want to play in my hair and like all the things. And so I was just like, let me just show up in the safe spaces. And unfortunately, the safe spaces are typically crowded, it's oversaturated, and you won't have an edge. Why? Because everybody is playing in the kiddie pool. Does this make sense, everybody? Like everybody is playing in the same little pool because that's a safe space for everybody. The place in which you want to dwell and grow and expand is in the places and spaces where your peers won't go. It's where your friends won't go. It's where they won't invest. It's like when you know you're on track, when you start saying you want to do certain things and your friends are looking at you like, why would you do that? You on the right track. Because the things that you're doing that's unique and dope is unique to you, right? So is this making sense? I hope this is making sense. Also, if you're new to the live stream, make sure you smash the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you can go back and watch some other videos we have here on the YouTube channel. And if you're new to us, what's up? I hope and pray that today's live stream bless you in some way to improve your life in some form or fashion, right? Okay, cool. So that was the first thing, right? I got my notes, right? I got my notes. So that was the thing I want to talk about. So whenever you go into places and you don't see your peers, you don't see your people, it is a sign of opportunity. It is not something you should run away from, right? Okay, I'm going to come back to the rest of these notes, but I want to show you this $1,000 book and why I bought it. Okay. And then we're going to get into some questions to really help you think. And then we're going to get into Q&A. So if you have any questions, now is a good time to get those questions in the chat. I have the Q&A. I have my chat right here. Kenyatta, hey Kenyatta, thank you for loving my shirt. Like this is my first time wearing it. And I had a very important meeting today, so I wanted to like pop out. You know what I'm saying? Let's see. Yes, I am I am at that job, government. Okay, that makes sense. Let's see. Yep, you have to be first, only, indifferent. Yes, I like that. FOD. I like that. Okay, that's fire. I love that. So yeah, that's something to kind of think about, right? So I bought $1,000 book. Now, be honest. How many of y'all would buy $1,000 book? I'm gonna tell you the story in a minute. But how many of you all would buy $1,000 book? Just put yes or no in the chat. Like, yes, I'll spend $1,000 on a book. No, I won't spend $1,000 on a book. Just put yes or no in the chat. Let's see. Yes, I've been brainstorming for a place to network where we are not for that very reason. Exactly. You're gonna love the questions I'm gonna be asking here in a moment. But let me know in the chat if you would spend $1,000 on a book, yes or no. Okay. Okay. So why did I buy this book? Why did I buy this book? Are you all familiar with Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich? Just put yes or no in the chat. He also wrote another book called Outwitting the Devil. That's my favorite book. Outwitting the Devil. Oh my God. Like that book changed my life on so many levels. Like it's insanity. Let me make sure the air is on because yeah, okay. I want to make sure the air is on because it's starting to get a little hot in here. Okay. Okay, cool. So when I got this book, right? The story sold me on this book. Now, if so, you all said you're familiar with Napoleon Hill. Y'all probably heard of Think and Grow Rich, or you probably heard of Outwitting the Devil, right? Both of those books are amazing. But what if I told you that this book is Napoleon Hill's book and it never was published? Wouldn't that have some value to you? They're like, whoa, you got one of Napoleon Hill's books that was never published? Don't that change the whole game? Like, think about it. You got access to a book that was never published, and you're able to see the original manuscript, right? And on top of that, the book has these different type of pages called decal pages. Okay, can y'all see this? Hopefully y'all can see that. Okay. So let me show you on the inside of this thing. Okay. So let me open this up and show you the inside. Okay. Can y'all see this? It's the manuscript on one side and the written part on the inside. Okay. Now, obviously, I can't show y'all the whole book for copyright reasons. But I purchased this book for $1,000. Okay. Russell Brunson was given the rights by Napoleon Hill Foundation to republish this book. Well, to not republish, but to publish this book so people could get it. The story goes that he can only print 1,000 copies of the book. So how cool would it be for me to be one of the 1,000 that can buy this book? Now, how do you get it? When you sign up for secretsofsuccess.com for the year, and you I think if you sign up for the year, you get this book. But you got to pay in full. That's the other thing. You can't sign up you got to sign up for the year annually, and you got to pay in full. So that comes out to about $1,000. When you pay for it in full, you get this book shipped in the mail, right? Now, inside of this book, let me tell you, before this book got into my hands, there was a collector, someone who collected Napoleon Hill's, body of work over the years. And this guy came into contact with with this particular manuscript. And so the guy who used to have access to this manuscript was basically had like a little museum where people could come to his place and read the manuscript in a day for $10,000. Did y'all catch that? Just put yes in the chat. He basically had it set up where if you want to read this manuscript, the name of this book is called Hand of Destiny. The name of the book is called Hand of Destiny, the original unedited manuscripts written by Napoleon Hill. So the guy who had the original access before it was sold to Russell Brunson, he had it set up where people could come to his home and read, not his home. I don't know what his situation was. I'm just gonna say his crib. But people could come and meet up with him and pay $10,000 to read it. Just to read it, not own it. And so for me to be able to have spent $1,000 and Russell Brunson spent all the money that he paid to get access to it, I think this is amazing asset that's in my catalog, and it makes me feel like, okay, like you're like, this is a boss move, right? And so why did I do a whole live stream on this today, right? Like, why am I doing a whole live stream on this? One, I want you to get comfortable with showing up I want you to, one, get comfortable with investing in products, services, and experiences that may seem ridiculous to people. Okay. Like I couldn't initially start talking about this before I bought it, right? Like I had to buy the book. I told you the story. You now have context. It now makes sense. You're like, okay, cool. I now understand why, you purchased this book. Had I started calling my friends or talking to people and be like, hey, do you think I should spend $1,000 on a book? Some of them probably would have been like, hell yeah, go ahead and do it, blah, blah, blah. Matter of fact, what's the link I want in? And then some people would have been like, hell no, you know what I could do with $1,000? Right? And so you have to be able to identify what is like opportunity and what is just like a distraction, right? And so for me, I felt like owning this book was more of an opportunity than it was a distraction, right? And I also feel like, okay, how valuable do this book become when all 1,000 copies of the book is sold out? So that's something that I started to think about as well. If you're vibing with this, just put a 1 in the chat. All right. If this is making sense, if you're loving it, if you're vibing with it, put a 1 in the chat. All right. Okay. So there's some questions I want to ask you and leave you with. And then if you have any questions, now is a good time to start putting your questions in the chat, because if I don't see any questions when I get through these questions, then I'm just going to end the live stream, right? And hopefully you all found a lot of value in what we're saying, right? Okay. So number 1, are you invested in products or services or experiences that only a few can unlock, right? I knew when I purchased my planners overseas, there were only a few people who could do that, right? I spent over $150,000 I spent over $150,000 to acquire all of my planners. So I purchased 4,000 planners, 1,000 of the offers, 1,000 of the launch system, 1,000 of the content planners, and 1,000 of the opportunity hour planners. We also bought boxes, tissue paper, things like that, right? So we spent over $150,000 to acquire all of the things that we needed in order to bring that product to market. There's a lot of people who quote unquote they think they do what I do, that would never have spent that money or wouldn't even think that they should, right? Like, oh, I'm never going to spend that kind of money. That's crazy. Yo, you could have just made it digital. Why you just didn't make it an ebook? All of those things are true. But when you're trying to be uncloned, it's about challenging the norms and being the first to do it first and really doing things that shake your industry up. So the question is, right? Are you investing in products, services, or experiences that only a few can unlock? Because that means that if some of y'all are cheap, okay, if you got the cheap spirit, that means you're going to have to elevate your spirit a little bit so you can start unlocking experiences and going into rooms that other people will be tripping about. Like, oh, that costs too much, or oh, I can't do that, so on and so forth, right? The next question that I want you to ask yourself is, are you seeking rooms that are not crowded with your faves, Ooh, let me say that again. Let me say that again. I'm going to read the question again. Okay. Are you seeking rooms that are not crowded with your faves? What I mean by is, if you see an event and it has a bunch of influencers, a bunch of people who done been on the speaking circuit, you done seen them a million times get interviewed, you done seen them a million times on podcasts, you done seen them a million times in the news, you done seen them a million times on social media, you done seen them a million times going live. Like, are you only going into rooms with people you follow? Right? I want you to start exploring out of your circle, right? I want you to start exploring out of your circle. And I'm gonna be honest with you. Sometimes a barometer for me to not go into an event is seeing everybody and their cousin in the industry there, right? Because it's gonna become like a popularity fest. It's gonna become like an influencer fest. It's gonna become like, can I take a picture with you type of thing. Like, it's gonna be more of a photo op, an appearance type of vibe. And so whenever I see stuff like that, I don't get excited. I'm like, I'm good. You know what I mean? And so I think that I'm not saying that you shouldn't go to events with influencers and all the things. What I'm saying is, you need to start asking yourself, how many people on the speaking list do I not know? And using that as a barometer to get into the room, because that's a good indication that you're crossing over, if you will. You're crossing over into a new community. You're crossing over into new people. If you look at the roster and you know 90-80% of the people, just go watch their YouTube, go listen to their podcast, go buy their courses. Because 9 times out of 10, when these jokers go to speak, they don't be sharing nothing new. Why? Because they only have 40 minutes, 45 minutes to an hour. And oftentimes they're not even talking about anything new, right? Because I done been that person who became a super fan of a person. I'm like, oh my God, they're going to be speaking at XYZ event. I'm going to get my plane ticket. I'm going to hop in the plane. I'm going to go. And then I pull up and it's like, it's the same shit I could have heard on YouTube, right? It's the same stuff I could have heard on their podcast. So whenever you are thinking about what rooms you need to go into, you want to be thinking about, what rooms can I go into that's not heavily saturated, where the conversation is going to be different, and I'm not at a place where I know all the speakers, right? I don't want to go anywhere where I know all the speakers. Womp womp. So just start to think about, like, how can I kind of circle out and venture out into other spaces, right? This is another thing. All right. What's a move that you know you need to make, but you keep putting it off, right? What are the moves that you know you need to make, but you keep putting them off? Do you need to hire someone? Do you finally need to make that big investment? Do you need to go get new photos? Do you need to up level your brand identity? Do you need to bring on someone to help you develop your dream product or your dream service? Do you finally need to do your first official big launch and first big official marketing campaign? Do you need to package your business up so you can exit and sell it? Like, what are the goals, right? What's the move that you know you need to make, that if you made it, it would like change the game for you and your entire business? Those are the things you want to begin to think about, right? And this is the last question. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat. Hopefully you all have vibed with this live stream. The next question is, who do you need to become? This is something that I've been asking myself like crazy. Hold on one second. One second. Okay. So who do you need to become, right? That's something that we don't often think about, because it's a saying of like, what got you here won't get you there. And that's true. So if you know for a fact that I'm a person that's cheap, I don't want to invest in anything, then you know, like, okay, I need to adopt an investor mindset. If you are a person that always want to learn stuff for free and you don't ever want to invest in a course or whatever to accelerate your growth, then that's who you need to become in your next evolution of yourself. If you are a person that feels like I can do it myself, I don't need anybody to help me, then maybe you should start inviting people in to help you. If you are a person that, does this make sense what I'm saying? Like, who do you need to become? Do you need to become a person that believes in yourself? Maybe you're always negative. Maybe you always think it ain't gonna never work out. Maybe you need to adopt and become a person that knows for a fact that now is my time. My life will change. Everything will be grand for me. Like, who do you need to become? Because who you need to become will determine the moves you need to make. Does this make sense, everybody? Like, I knew a while ago, like maybe like in 2020, I had to really 2019. In 2019, I started to adopt the identity of being a CEO. And what does it mean to be a CEO? Well, CEOs have vision. CEOs know where they're going. CEOs are clear on their product suite. CEOs can project. CEOs are taking their finances seriously. CEOs would they have accountants. They have I spent a lot of money in 2020, 2019 on legal, about $30,000. Like we legitimize our business. We get things in order, right? And so it's all about who do you need to become in order to like go to this next level. So really quick, because I see a question here in the chat. um so I'm gonna go over this again. So the first question is, are you investing in products or services or experiences that only a few can unlock? Number two, are you seeking rooms that are not crowded with your faves? And the next question you want to be able to ask yourself, let's see, what's a move you need to make but you keep playing small? And the next question is, who do you need to become? Right? In order for me to be a woman who spent $1,000 on a book, my mindset had already changed prior to buying this book. If I was the same cheap girl from back home in Memphis, over a decade ago, I would have thought buying $1,000 book was crazy. What you spent, girl? Get out of my face! I ain't finna spend no $1,000 on no book, girl. What's in that book? You know what I mean? I would have came up with a million excuses on why I would have done that. But who I am today, I think differently. I make different moves. I'm trying to be in the different spaces. I evaluate opportunities differently. I remember when there was a time where I used to just be excited for being invited. Right? I was just talking to my best friend, sister friend, Rochelle about this, and we were talking about like, I'm beyond excited about being invited. I'm now evaluate the opportunity. I don't care if you want me to come and speak at your event if it's not an event. You know what I mean? Like I'm looking at the event like, okay, where's this event going to be at? Do you all have an allocated marketing budget? If I come in and speak, will I be able to sell my products and services? Like I have a whole nother mindset on speaking, and when I'm invited to speak, I'm thinking to myself, if coming to your event on a Saturday, could I host my own event and make more money? So like I think of it differently, because sometimes when you have that pick me energy, you're excited about any opportunity. It's like, can you come and speak at my event for free at your own expense? Oh, by the way, you got to buy a ticket for you and your spouse. Oh no, honey boo boo, that's not an opportunity for me. Maybe someone who's new, who don't understand their value yet, but totally not me, right? And I understand that we go into seasons where some seasons you got to do it because you're putting yourself out there. But I would also challenge you to not stay in that stage for a long, long time, right? So, anywho, I'm going to answer the questions that I see here. I think I only see one question, and then we go from there. As an esthetician that's new to marketing, that wants to provide a luxury experience across the board, what things would you suggest I have in my pipeline place to do so? Okay, so this is what I would say. You say you're new here. Welcome to the community. Glad to have you here. The first thing I would say is like, what is going wrong in your industry that you can be a pioneer and improve? So I'll give this one to you. I've given it to other spa professionals, but clearly they're not hearing me. But I would love, love, love to see a visual menu for booking spa services. I don't know why, even the most high end spa services, I don't understand why anyone in the spa industry don't realize that they should have video or photos to visually represent the experience that they are going to sell people, even if it's a video brochure. So, like, if I click on a couple's massage, I should be able to see a mock up couple or somebody who's like walking in, and you kind of get this to preview the experience. And you're like, oh, I want that. I just feel like what I see in the spa industry, it's like this assumption that everybody know what the different type of facials are. There's an assumption that everybody know the different treatments you can get. There's an assumption that everybody know about the different skin products. So if you really want to like take it to a whole nother level, I would actually spend time on educating my people and creating an experience that helps them make a buying decision. So that would be the thing that I would say to focus on first, is like, what kind of experiences are you selling? Are you demonstrating and showcasing that experience in a way that's compelling to a person to be like, oh yeah, I need that? And so hopefully that answered your question. So I want to thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream. I really do hope that you got value from it. If you're new here and you're not already subscribed, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel so you can be notified of our next and upcoming videos. Also, if you haven't had an opportunity to go back and watch some of the videos that we have, I highly suggest that you go and check out those videos because they are gold. Matter of fact, I just did a video yesterday about how how to focus on one project at a time. So if you haven't watched that video, jump off this video and go straight into that video. So until next time, y'all, let's go live an uncloned life and build an uncloned brand. Bye, y'all.